Well, good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Erev Yom Tov, Sukkos, Tavshin Pei Aleph, Baruch Hashem is upon us. And the trivia question for this Shabbos, this Yom Tov is, where do we find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicates directly with Klal Yisrael? We all know that Nevuah is gone. Prophecy is at this point a thing of the past. Hashem, that we do not have Nevi'im these days, but there are certain ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicates with us till today. Ask around at your Shabbos Yom Tov table when you're sitting in your Sukkah Be'ezra Hashem, where it's not going to rain, hopefully. Ask, where do we find that Hashem communicates directly with potentially each and every one of us in Klal Yisrael? The Mishnah in Sukkah and Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis. First, let people guess. We always want to encourage crowd participation. Let the other guess if they don't get it, or if they guess whatever they guess. Then you share with them what the Mishnah says in Sukkah and Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis. Zok the Mishnah. The Mishnah is talking about when you're allowed to leave the Sukkah if it's raining, and we're supposed to. The halach is one is supposed to leave the Sukkah if it rains. May Masai from when? Could you leave the Sukkah? When your the soup gets ruined. So the Mishnah gives us a parable. What is it like when a person is sitting in the Sukkah on Sukkos and it starts to rain? What is a parable that will describe that? Says the Mishnah, servants coming to give his Rebbe, his master, some wine, and he pours the water on his face. We'll go with the understanding that the master pours the water on the servant's face. So we're coming to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he pours the water on our face. Says, leave the Sukkah. Okay? That's communication number one, the mitzvah of Sukkah. Says the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, this is place number 2, where we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay, here it's not that Hashem communicates with Klal Yisrael, but Hashem is testing. Hashem is testing someone when it comes to the fulfillment of the mitzvah. So says the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the Gemara is a long arichas in the beginning, talking about the Umois HaOlam, the other nations will come in the end of days and say, it's not fair, you didn't give us the Torah. Had you have given us the Torah, we would have kept it better than the Yidden kept it. So please give us a mitzvah that we can show you that we would be loyal to you. That's what the Goyim were going to tie it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Hashem says, listen, it's too late. You rejected the Torah. They rejected the Torah. It's a bit late, but you know what? I'm going to give you a mitzvah. Excuse me. I'll give you a mitzvah kala. I will give you a mitzvah kala. Mitzvah kala yeshli v'sukkah shma. Avodah Zarah daf gimel. I have an easy mitzvah. It's called sukkah. L'chu v'osu oisa. Go make your sukkah. So the Gemara says that why is it called a mitzvah kala? Mishum deles v'chesim kis. It doesn't cost that much money. Okay, today's maybe a different story, but technically speaking, you can build a sukkah for pennies. Everyone goes and builds the sukkah on the Rosh Hagag. We mentioned last sukkah the significance of Gag. Goy Gemagoi, Gag versus David, sukkahs, the Haftarah, Shabbos Cholamayit, fine. The Goyim build their sukkahs on their roofs. HaKadosh Baruch Hu maktir leim chama b'tkufas tamas. And Hashem makes the sun come out of its nartik, and Hashem makes it very, very hot. And each person comes and he kicks the sukkah. And he walks out. So the Gemara says, and then they failed the test. They failed their test because the Goyim kicked the sukkah and left. That's a failure. But that's not fair. You're setting them up for failure. That's not fair. The Gemara says, Mishum D'Yisrael Nami Zimnin the Mashlut Kufis Thomas. Sometimes it happens to the Jews also. It's not like Hashem made something happen in December. It was 120 degrees. That can sometimes happen when Sukkot is very early. That it's very hot. It's Kufis Thomas. It's still very hot. And they're Bitsar. So the Gemara says, but didn't Rava say Mitzar Patim in a Sukkah? But if you're a Bitsar, if it's so hot that you can't sit in the Sukkah, you're allowed to leave. Right? You're allowed to leave. Mitzar Patim in a Sukkah. Says the Gemara, very important, and it's actually brought down in Shulchan Aruch, amazing. Nihi de pater biute mi mevarti. They're pater, but do they kick the sukkah when they leave? The Mishnah in Sukkah says, when it rains, right, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling us, I don't want you to fulfill the mitzvah of Sukkah. Hashem is communicating to us by throwing us out of the Sukkah. The Gemara of Avodah Zarah talks about how Hashem gave this mitzvah to the Goyim, and the test to see if they would have fulfilled the 613 mitzvahs that Hashem gave the Yidden. Now the Goyim are saying it's not fair. The test is when they're pater from the mitzvah. When Hashem brings out the sun and it gets very uncomfortable, and the halacha is that they're pater from the mitzvah, how do they leave the sukkah? Do they kick the sukkah, or do they walk out with a low head, looking down to the ground as a humbled servant who the master did not want his service? When we're tested in mitzvahs, the interesting and somewhat ironic point is we're not tested, at least in these two cases, we're not being tested in how we fulfill the mitzvah. Now, of course, we have to fulfill the mitzvah in the best possible way. When Hashem tests the Yidden, as far as their connection to Him and their connection to the mitzvahs, it's dafka when they're pater from the mitzvah, when they're exempt from the mitzvah. And how do they treat the mitzvah? Are they happy they get to run inside the house? Or they go out with a bit of humility, a bit of humbleness that Hashem didn't want our service? And this is the real barometer to know if a person is connected. In a sense, it's easy to go with a big Rav and buy the best set of Daled Minim, to have someone come and put up your sukkah for you until it's perfect. But the real geschmack that a person gets from mitzvahs is only seen when he's pater, when he's exempt from the mitzvahs. That's when he sees that whether he is really engaged and connected to the mitzvahs or not so. So my bracha to all of us on this Sukkos, Tavshin Pei Aleph, is that hopefully it won't rain. And these Gemaras won't be relevant to us. It shouldn't be relevant, and it's not going to rain. Everything's going to be great. But if it happens, Taka, that we are rained out from the Sukkah, there's no simcha that we're leaving the Sukkah. Fakert, we go out with a low head, and we're makabel, and this is the avodah as we mentioned over Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Our avodah in Tavshin Pei Aleph is to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, here I am. Whatever you want, I'm at your service. Whatever you want, that's what I want to do. If you want me to go inside, I'll go inside. If you want me to stay in the Sukkah, I'll stay in the Sukkah. But it's to realize, the whole idea of Sukkos is to realize man's frailty. We walk out from our homes that we feel secure in, and we walk into our Sukkah where we're exposed to the elements, the Yesod from Sukkahs, is to feel that vulnerability that we have, as Tavshin Pei has taught us in a very serious way, that we're all very vulnerable, and we're constantly dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu to keep us going. And my bracha to us is that we realize this and we're able to fulfill the mitzvahs in the optimal way. And if there's a reason that we can't fulfill them, we also don't fulfill them in the optimal way. Wishing everyone a good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov.